Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Laura Wilkie with Down Home with Lemon Pie, and today we are going to continue our journey with the Godschooling book. This is video number 4. Alright guys, welcome back. If you're brand new to my channel, I am so glad you're here. I am a Christian homeschool mama. I have 7 little ones. We have been homeschooling from the very beginning. And before I get started, I want to remind you that this is Homeschool Fellowship Friday, which is the day that I get to share with you guys fun stuff related to homeschooling. So things regarding book reviews, curriculum reviews, in this case it is a book review, any kind of things that we can fellowship together. And if you want to join in, make your own videos, join in, tag me on Instagram or Facebook, and I would be happy to go by and watch your videos, share them with my own community. That's what I want to create, is a good homeschooling community, not where we're all comparing each other, but where we can all help and fellowship together. So if that sounds like something that you would like to do and join, definitely subscribe, like, comment, share the videos with others, and join us. Okay, so this is video 4 of our Godschooling book. I am going through this book with you guys slowly, like I said, video 4. So we've already had 3 previous videos. If you need to go back and watch those, they are listed in the description of this video in the playlist Homeschool Fellowship Friday. You can find them right there. They all have this little picture on the front cover of the video so that you can easily find them. You can also probably just type in Godschooling into YouTube and they will probably all pop up there too. So this is video 4. We talked about kind of a broad overview of what this is. We have gone age categories, I guess, being going up slowly. And this video, guys, is about the teen years. And you may be thinking, what is she doing? She cannot talk to us about teens because she does not even have a teen. And you would be correct. I do not have a teen. My oldest daughter is 12, but we are not far off. And we are already starting to explore some of these avenues that are being discussed in this book. And it's so good and helpful. So I am not endorsed by her or anything. I just found her book to be a blessing to our home, and I wanted to share it with you guys as well. So, you know, when you think of teens, the first thing you think of is like that teen angst, that natural desire to push against the boundaries or the pillars that have been set up in their lives, whether it's teachers or parents or whatever kind of leaders are in their lives, that a natural thing to push against that. And you think that is normal, that is just part of teens, and that's because that's exactly what we're told. But as we are seeing through not only this book, but just look around you, the media, society, all kinds of things, what you're told is not always what is real. And that is the case according to this author in this as well. When you look at teens, in our culture, in modern teen culture, there's a fear of teens. They are stripped. We feel like we need to control them. We need to strip them of their respect and their responsibilities. The expectation is that they're going to fail. The expectations are that they are not going to rise up and be successful as teens, that they have to get out of the teen years and then they'll be good. And that they're not useful, just all of these things. We almost fear them. Like when you see a group of teens outside of a store, you kind of assume that they're up to no good, right? You don't just assume, oh, well, they probably were out here cleaning the parking lot. That was so good of them. You don't assume that. You instantly assume, oh, what are they doing? We better watch out for them. So that kind of expectation, when that is placed upon you as a person, becomes what you become. Okay, so you hear that all the time, but we don't apply it to teens for some reason. But you hear it, like you'll hear speak life to your kids, and what you say is what they will become, and tell them positive things, and tell them this and tell them that and all these things. And but when it comes to teens, we instantly, oh, well, you're moody and you're grumpy and you're this and you're that and you're not responsible. You can't do it. You don't know what you're doing. You're you know, not capable. All these things. And it is so true, guys. We deliberately, as a society, not as you, a personal parent, but as a society, we deliberately push them down and do not allow them to rise up to their capabilities, really. And she talks about it so well in this book. So I'm not able to, word for word read you this book. Do go get it, because there's some things particularly in this chapter that I'm not going to touch on, because I want I want this video to make sense and to flow well and to not be too long, all these things. And so I do want you to, if you want to know more about it or need more information or more, she has all of that in here. She has research and references and all the things in here. So I'm not going to delve on all of that in this video, but that is true. The expectation is that we think that teens are just, they're in between that where we're taking care of them stage as a child and where they're taking care of themselves is what we think. But that's not actually true. As we talked about in another video, teenagers, just like other kids, should be doing everything that you are doing in your day-to-day life. They can do all of those things, and you are technically training them as you would if you were in a job to do these things. So you are training them how to rise up and be responsible, letting them have opportunities where they can be successful, not necessarily creating opportunities where we know they're going to fail and then kind of delving on it. Oh, well, see, I knew you were going to do it wrong. That kind of stuff. But before she talks about this, I found this so fascinating. She says before the 1920s, teens worked, and I found this is the part I found interesting. All over the world today, they still do that, except for in Western society where we live. They work as apprentices. They, at 13, give or take, that is the norm for them to go to work or to have like an after-school apprenticeship. And it gets a little touchy because you start to think, oh no, child labor, no, we don't want that. And that is not the same thing, okay? This is not demanding that they are up at 4 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night doing hard labor. That is not the same thing. That is not what she is promoting or talking about or anything. And she does touch on that, how it is different. And, when we give our teens the expectations that they deserve, when we expect them to be successful in a place where they can be successful, then we will see them be successful. And if people were suspicious of you all the time, if they were always thinking you were up to no good, you would not rise to the occasion to prove them wrong. More than likely, you would feel bad and you would start to believe, well, they say that I'm bad, so I am bad, and I can't do it, so I must not be able to, and all these things, so I'm not even going to try, and blah, blah, blah. And you would just be grumpy all the time, and that is the same thing. Think about your own teen experience. If it was not as positive as you would have hoped, was it because of some of these things? And I'm not saying that your parents are bad or that my parents are bad or any of that. That is how society has groomed us and taught us as a group. And as a society, we should grow from that, is what I am saying. So we don't need to delve on the past, but we should look to the past, learn from it, and grow from that. And that is what I am trying to do in our home. So as a teenager, I felt so much of what she talks about in this book. I felt that so much of what I was doing in school was completely worthless for my future. And I felt a lot of pressure to come up with a career, to be passionate about something and to have a career, when I completely believe this with all my heart, that God the whole time was preparing me to be a stay-at-home mom with a big family. And I was just talking about this with my daughters the other day. I played with dolls, like legit played with dolls until I was at least 12, and maybe farther, and legit would play with them. Even with my younger cousins who played with them, it was like my crutch. Like, I can play with them because I'm playing with these guys. And today, we rip dolls out of girls' hands way too soon. And society does as a whole. They start treating them like big kids, like teenagers, when they're really little, even dressing them, but that's a whole nother video. But we start making them mini adults way too soon. And when I was young, I would do these things, like I would create entire families on paper or in my brain or with my dolls, huge families with lots and lots of kids. I would design their houses on paper, what I wanted them to look like, and I would have, none of them ever had, I think, less than 8 or 10 kids. I have 7, so I'm not even there yet. But that is what I was passionate about, and I was led to feel that that was childish games. And I remember even in a specific class, them taking us and saying, we want you to do a report on something that you are passionate about, something you are fascinated with. And I could not come up with a topic. There was nothing. And I was about 12 years old, maybe 13, when this happened. And all I could think about was, and I even told the teacher, all I like are children. And she said, oh, well, that's because you want to be, you need a career with children. So she started giving me all kinds of careers with children. So she said, you should be a teacher, or you could be a daycare thing, or whatever. And I think that if I had just been given the opportunity, if someone had told me, you could be a mom, that would have been fine with me. I would have been perfectly happy with that. But that is not the way it worked. I was pushed towards some other careers, which, shaped me and created me with who I am now. But what I'm trying to get to, you guys, is sometimes our kids already kind of have a feel for what they want to do, and we squash it, or we tell them it's not possible, and we lead them down paths that are not what they really want to do, or where God is leading them, but rather where we are leading them. I'm going to talk some more about that in just a minute. But think about things that you learned as a teenager and where you were most successful. I was the most successful when I got a job at a real store and was excelling there, versus when I was in school spending hours and hours and hours a day learning all kinds of things, because I went to public school, and learning all kinds of things that I knew I was never going to use in my real day-to-day life. And teenagers know this, and they do not want us to put that on them, okay? They have so many things they want to do, and they need to be using their time wisely to do that, because we are squashing it and then expecting them to be successful adults. And it's very hard to be successful in anything you do when you do not have the time to pursue it, because your time is filled up with school and things that you don't care about, things that you're not going to use, extracurricular activities, all these things that you can't pursue. So as homeschoolers, often I hear this all the time. In fact, we've been asked this: you're only going to homeschool while they're little, right? You're not planning to do this the whole time. And as a matter of fact, we are. Because why would we uproot what we have been growing so soon? Why would we uproot the example she gives? Why would you uproot a tree that is just about to bear fruit and then plant it somewhere else? Why would you do that? So many times, though, we feel the pressure. And I hear other moms say this. They say, oh, when they get to high school, I'm going to send them to school because I do not know how to teach. And then fill in the blank with whatever subject. Algebra 2, trigonometry, chemistry. Just fill in the blank. And physics, whatever. And I start hearing, oh, we're going to source that out. We're going to source that out. And that's okay to find helpers, but to completely take their whole education and throw it into a public school, I'm not sure that's the best way to do it. And that is the whole thing we've been trying to keep them out of, was that whole model that we know is skewed and wrong. Why would we throw them into that, or why would we recreate it in our homes? As homeschoolers, there's a pressure in the world for our kids to measure up. And we get so wrapped up in that we forget to explore what high school can be versus what the world tells us it should be. And we forget that teens are going to do natural things. They are going to try on and sample different jobs, different careers, different areas, different clothing options, different things. They are going to do that, and that is okay. We need to set boundaries, but we don't need to squash it. One of the things that my mom set a boundary for in my own life, and I am so thankful for, was this is kind of embarrassing, but I really wanted a belly button piercing for years. And she said, you know what, I don't think this is the best reason. And she gave me all the reasons why. And didn't care. And then she said, you know what? You can get this, but you need to wait until you're this age. And she gave me a few years that I had to wait. So all those years, I was ready. I was excited. I was going, and she was probably, and when it came down to it, as I got to the age, I don't even remember what it was, that she had given me that I could go do it, I didn't want to do it anymore. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And so I am so glad that she set that boundary. She didn't squash it and say, no, you're not doing it, because I probably would have. But she said, you know what? Here's the reasons I don't think it's a good idea. And when I didn't listen, then she gave me a boundary, and that helped to shape me into it. They may still do it. They may, and that's okay. They're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes in our lives as we grow, but we shouldn't be afraid to let them pursue their interests. We shouldn't take our idea of what their teen years need to look like. We shouldn't take all of that and say, this is how you're going to do it too, if that's not what they need. The core subjects that the schools are always teaching, and they make them feel like they're like the law. And I'm not saying if your child is super interested in science and wants to pursue it, I'm not saying you should take that away from them, or math or history or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if it is something that they have no interest in, it is causing trouble, it is causing crying, and it's not something that you can feasibly see is going to be useful in their future as an adult, then why are you messing with it? Why are you struggling through it? Why are you fighting the fight every day? She gives us an example, a great quote, and I wrote it down here because I just thought it was really good. And she says, if kids are not burned out with school, they will learn what they need with ease and enthusiasm. And is that not true? Think of how much you have learned as an adult when you have had time and you are not burned down with all kinds of other things that you could care less about. But they may not have a passion. Like I told you, I didn't have a passion in the beginning. I didn't know. And I did have a passion, but I didn't know that my passion could be a career, like a traditional thing. And I didn't know that homemaking was a thing. We were very girl power. Girls got to have a job and got to support the family. And so that is what I struggled with for so many years. And, sometimes we need to take our kids back and remind them of what they were passionate about, what that gave them joy as a child, and then let them focus on that. If they are just really not following and not kind of lost, but not really sure what to do. And, the keys for a successful high school experience are passion and motivation, and you will not have either of those if you are squashing it with so many things that they do not want to do. And I'm not saying you shouldn't give your kids things that they don't want to do. My kids have chores, they don't want to do them, but they are good for them. And I'm not saying if it's something they don't want to do, they should just not do it, but I am saying if there is not a visible purpose in their future lives, chores have a very good place in their lives, right? They need to learn how to do dishes because that is a thing that they'll have to do. Physics, maybe not so much. Trigonometry, probably not. So you just have to consider that. And of course, every family will have to decide for their own. Let me just throw this out there. We are not taking an entirely 100% Godschooling approach. I'll talk about this in a later video, but we are going to be utilizing a lot of these concepts because it is so good. We really shouldn't be pressuring our kids to choose a career. I remember being asked what I wanted to be when I grew up since I was little. And even my kids are asked this all the time. What do you want to be when you grow up? And how would they even know? They don't even know who they are. And when we start placing them in these little shapes and boxes and pressuring them to create their futures before they're even ready, before they even know who they are or what they want to do, it ends up with false starts and wasted money later. This was true for myself. This was true for my husband. You spend all kinds of money going to school for some field that you don't want to do. You see this all the time in colleges where kids will have double majors because they thought they wanted to do this and then they wanted to do this. Or they almost did this, so they went to school for this and then changed and did this. Or they changed halfway through. And from different businesses or different jobs, I guess, and kind of trying things out, seeing what I wanted to do, when all along I wanted to just be a mom and stay home, but I was told that wasn't possible. That's not a thing. That's not what you do with your life. And so I kept trying to find something. I actually did not want to go to college. I do have a master's, a bachelor's, and a master's, but I did not want to go to college. I fought so hard, and as an adult, I can tell you that much of what I learned is not utilized in my day-to-day lives, except that I have learned the slant of colleges and the obscurity of them, and how much I do not wish for our children to join that group. If they want to, if they have a career. So this is where I have to stop a second, because if our child wants a career in a position that absolutely requires a college degree, by all means, we are going to do that for that person. However, does everybody need it straight out of high school? You need to go to college now. That is what I'm talking about. It does not need to be that way. And did you know, she gives this statistic in here, and I did not know this, so I'm going to share it with you, because you may not either. Only 30% of jobs require a college degree, and most of them listed as preferred, but not required. So I did not know that. Again, if you need information on where she got this information, if you need references, those kinds of things, it's all in here. I'm not going to give you all of that in this video, but she did mention in conversations with professors, the single greatest factor in hiring was did I say professors? Professionals. The single greatest factor in hiring when a professional was looking at somebody to hire was not their degree, but was an awesome portfolio. If they had something they could show that they'd been working on, that would work. So you start thinking, do they need to go to school and learn all of these things when they're only going to use 2 of those classes? Do they? I don't know. I don't think so. And could they just take those classes and then utilize that in their job? Can they do that? Of course they can. You hear of adult learning all the time, adult education classes all the time, where somebody wants to move up in their position or whatever, so they just need to take a couple classes. Did you know? You probably don't know this, but this is something that I was told. This is something that I think everybody was told, and it is such a lie. I'm just going to say it is such a lie. But we're always told this, that your future colleges, professionals, are going to want to see your transcript. And more often than not, they never wanted to see my transcript. Nobody ever cared what classes I took. They just wanted to know that I completed high school. They wanted to know that I completed college, if that was something they were looking for. They didn't ask to see a list of all the classes I took in college or all the classes I took in high school, and we should keep that in mind. I'll come to that in a few minutes, but keep that in mind for just a few minutes. Why do we feel like our kids need to go to college? Why do we feel like that? Is it because these are going to hit you hard, guys? These are questions directly from her book, but they're going to hit you because they are so true. As homeschoolers, is it because we fear we are letting down other homeschoolers by allowing our children to choose vocational careers? Do we feel the pressure to put our kids through college because we feel as homeschoolers we are held to a higher standard? Do we feel pressure to put our kids in college because we fear what others and our relatives will say? People who have been telling you all along, this isn't a good idea, homeschooling's not going to work, it's not a good idea, they'll never get into college. Then you feel they have to get into college. But why can't we stop? What if we stopped right there and said, but we don't want them to be in college? Why? Why would you not want your kids in college? I'm going to give you a ton of reasons right now, and that does not discredit if a field absolutely requires it. For example, if your child wants to be a surgeon, obviously they need to go to college. But I am talking about college as a blanket slate for everybody, okay? Many children. This is the biggest one for me. This was the biggest one that I saw when I went to college. I saw it at 3 different colleges that I went to. It was at all of them. And, you know, I even see it at Christian colleges. So be aware. Many children raised in Christian homes, like my children, maybe your children, leave their faith when they go to school. Is that degree worth it? Schools right now, I saw this constantly. I was actually not a Christian when I went to college, and it did not do me any benefit going to college as far as helping me to become a Christian. And that was right around the time I was kind of searching, and that is not what you want. Colleges, I saw this time and time again, even like I said, in Christian colleges, even among other friends of mine that are Christians and were raised Christians. Colleges will attack your child's faith hard. And if your child is not ready to stand up to defend their faith, they will fall. They absolutely will fall. And they will get sucked in to a world of lies. It is like, I don't even know how to, this is probably going out on a limb, but it's like Satan's playground. It's a bunch of kids trying to decide where they want to go, what they want to do with their lives. And it's prime time when the parents aren't there, when there's not other guidance there, for them to jump in and suck the life out of them. There's a huge liberal slant. I actually was not given as good of grades on papers if I wrote them in a conservative manner, but rather if I wrote them with a liberal slant. The faith thing is a huge one. It is huge. It is absolutely huge, and it will determine your children's entire future. You know, in my home, my child's faith is way more important, and no matter how strong a Christian you think you have raised, with how much, you know, proof and biblical history and all these things that you have given them, when they are gone for a long extended period of time without people around them who are going to surround them and continue to feed them, that will fall by the wayside and it will go away. I promise you, and I don't want it, and it will happen. There are books about it. It happens, it happens, it happens. There are people who have spoken out about it. It's not just me. So that is the biggest one for me. But let's look at the next one. Let's think about their careers. This is an example directly from her book. I'm going to summarize it, so if it is a little confusing, again, get the book, because that is what I am discussing, but I'm going to summarize this. She gives an example that in 2016, the average, I have to read off my notes for this one, the average graduate out of a college graduated with $37,000 of debt, okay? When they include the interest rate, and again, she gives all the numbers for this, it was $350 a month. She didn't tell how many years, but, or maybe she did. I don't remember, but I don't have it written down, that they were having to pay. At a job that was averaging $47,000, when you calculate in the debt, okay, they were actually only making $43,000 a year, okay? When you consider that they've now graduated, they've got their degree, they've got debt that they're having to pay monthly, this is how much they have additional, okay? Compared to a journeyman electrician is what she gives as the example, but you can take all kinds of fields, who has spent the last 4 years, the 4 years that college kid was in college, this guy spent the last 4 years at a paid apprenticeship, earning a grand total over the 4 years, $120,000. So yes, per year was earning less, but graduated, or the first kid graduated with a bunch of debt. This kid has been earning less than that kid would eventually make. However, this kid has none of that debt. Now has a combined savings of, could be, if they were living at home or, you know, not having a lot of bills or whatever, $120,000. Okay, this same person who has done this apprenticeship now qualifies for a $50,000 job or higher, because they've had experience and they have not left their faith. It's huge. It is huge. One of the things that I experienced as a college kid was I got my bachelor's, and then I decided I didn't want to do what I got my bachelor's in, so I had to go back and get my master's, and I got my master's, and when I got my master's, I ran into a problem. And you will see this as well with your kids if they go to college, so I am warning you now. When I got graduated, I was told that jobs that I was qualified for, I could not get because they would not hire me because I did not have experience in that field. And for the position that matched my qualifications, they needed experience to go with that. So I would go and apply for lower jobs to get that experience, and I was told at the lower jobs, you are overqualified. We cannot hire you for this position. And I was stuck in a catch-22. I could not get a job. I tried for a long time. I ended up getting this little fluff job, and as soon as I had my first child, as soon as I could, I left it and stayed home, which was my true calling and passion. You know, we forget, this is so true, also true for the medical industry, but that's a whole nother video. You know, we forget, and this is the same with the medical industry. You will forget this too, but maybe you've seen it more recently, but colleges are businesses. They are businesses. They need to make money, and they are going to convince the public that we need their services, and more often than not, you probably don't. But they're not going to tell you that. If you go ask a college, they're not going to tell you, you don't need our services. Yes, like I said, yes, some fields it is appropriate, but is it appropriate for everybody? No, it is not. So do your research. You do not have to follow the crowd. Let your teens have that time. Let them have the things that they need. Okay, so she does give you some great examples for alternatives to college. I am going to go into some of these because they were amazing things I hadn't even considered, and things that we would probably pursue. So I'm going to do that probably in another video, but it is in this book if you want to check those out. But did you know that kids, since the Depression, when they would have less worries today, right, versus the Depression, they are seeing a higher rate of anxiety, depression, suicide, and there is a lack of control on their lives, a lack of faith being taught. So many things coming against them, and that is why we're seeing these things in teens. Teenagers need to be collaborators in charting their course as a career and in the things that they need. They need time to be able to figure those things out. They need to have parents who, we so often think we need to plan their high school classes based on college admission. She talks about that here, and you start thinking, okay, well, we have to get all these things in these 4 years, last 4 years of school, and it's not even fun. It's not fun for you. It's not fun for the kids. But the college admissions say you need 4 years of English, 4 years of math, of hard science, social science, and 2 years of a foreign language. And we think that there's going to be like a test later that they're going to have to do, and we don't actually look, we tell them, like I was saying, we tell them that, they're going to look at your transcript, and they don't. They just want to see that you had something that fit that category. So things that you don't even consider. If your child wants to write a book, if that is something they're passionate about, that counts as an English credit. She talks about that. Having a blog and doing blog posts could count as an English credit. A Master Gardener course, I know 4-H does that, or a university extension program course where you're assisting a botanist, something she gives as an example in this book, could count, either of those, as a science. And, we should encourage our children to do hard things. Hard things will build their character. This is a great time for building their character. They are transitioning to be adults. There's nothing that tells us how it needs to look exactly. but we just start modeling it after the public school, and then we see that we just kind of forget that there's so many failures in the public school system that we just think they must, I don't know, that they must be right. But they don't necessarily care. In fact, kids who had these extraordinary teachings or skills actually were preferred because it was different. It was special. And more often than not, it was something that required them to have personal growth and, personal reach, where they were trying to get to those goals on their own without having a grade or something like that. So that basically wraps up this section. Like I said, I'm probably going to do another video on the alternatives she discusses to college in here. It won't be a long video because it is a short part, but it was a little too detailed for me to include in this video. So look for that one. It'll probably be the next video. I thank you guys for watching, and like I said, we are going through this slowly and learning from it. When I am finished with all these videos, I'll do another video and share with you guys what I'm going to take from this book and utilize in our own home. No, we're not going to utilize the whole book in our home or do all of the things she talks about or discusses, but some of it we will be. We're still going to be kind of on the fence as far as what style of homeschooling we're doing, and I'll talk about that later. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, subscribe and like, comment, share the videos with others. I'm not allowed to do that in little groups on Facebook or different things. I'm not allowed to self-promote. So if you see something that would be helpful, somebody's asking about, please share it. Don't hesitate to do that. And I'll see you guys next time.